start to put tension on my string drawback, I was like, okay, I'm gonna smoke.
It's him. You can look at the horns when he's dead. I'm in the zone. Let the arrow go. Just perfect.
When they lose their front shoulders, you start, that's how you know they're smoking.
Went about 5-10 more yards. He probably went 20 yards total. Stepped in, we tried getting back up. And I saw him pull up.
We rushed 4 meters rods that night. We got like 156 and something like that. And then the next day we came out to 163 even.
You're listening to the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table where we talk about the outdoors.
What's up, everybody? Tom's working his way to the table. There he is.
Glad to be here, everybody.
Yeah, nailed it. Nick's also here. He's been here the whole time.
Yep, never left. Still here, 100 and a lot of episodes later.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually closer to 200 than we are 150.
Yeah,
100,
Yes.
Wild.
Very wild.
Speaking of wild, while we got you on here, Tommy, been wanting to talk to you. I don't know, I guess for our PA crowd, they know this. But we've, Otter season is in for a short while here. And Tom's been hitting it hard, but he's had some issues. So I just wanted to give Tom the floor real quick, talk a little bit about your otter trap and what you've been doing, but I also want you to touch on the frustrations we've encountered this week.
So otter season here in PA, it's a short season. It's a week long. There's a limit on to the number of traps you can have. You can only have 5 traps out, 2 of which can be body gripping traps, Connor bear or cable restraint. And otters, I know that a lot of people have seen and caught otters in French Creek. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I wanted to focus. My trapping was along French Creek. Mm-hmm. So I did some scouting via Onyx and found some public state land where French Creek is actually like the back border of the game lands. And then there was some feeder streams that branched off and went right through the heart of the game land. So I'm like, that looks like a perfect spot. I didn't have access to public or private land on French Creek, so this was like the next best thing.
Yeah.
How big is French Creek? Like, are you giving away a huge secret here?
French Creek's massive.
Yeah,
Nick.
French Creek is long.
I was just making sure that you weren't giving away too much info.
Nick, you know that it starts up
I know it's
New York.
But I don't know. Not like it's the Mississippi.
It's
no, but it goes New York, across PA, and then into Ohio. Yeah, it's Big Creek. So somewhere along there, that's where I'm at. And I get out there, opening day, stop over at my lure supplier guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say his name because that could give away my location. Good guy, though. Good guy.
Continue. I was just going to say, if people listen enough and are attentive, I think we've used his name before.
Anyway.
Nick's just trying to throw you under the bus, Tom.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to give lats and longs at the end of this.
He hooked me up, and he gave me this tip. He said, something a lot of guys aren't doing, but that works, is using a box trap to catch otters. Mm-hmm. And what you do is you put it on a sandbar or a bank that goes out into the river and kind of drape some grass over it, make it look like a tunnel. And I'm like, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. So I got that bit of knowledge from him. I got some shellfish oil.
And this is your first year otter trap?
First time, yep.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Absolutely. I got some shellfish oil and some otter lure, and I was on my way. I had 2 Connor bears, 2 foot traps, and a box trap. That was my 5 setups. Mm-hmm. So my first setup, there was this finger that kind of went out into the creek, and I could tell that there was otters coming out of the river and using this finger to get up on land. There was a lot of otter crap and some clam shells and stuff, otter tracks. I'm like, yeah, this looks like a good spot. So I
honestly didn't know that like freshwater clams were a thing in that abundance. So I learned something today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, otters love them. So I made a little scent mound, put a little cat food, tuna-based cat food out. Put some otter lure out there, and put my foot trap on it. That one's been pretty quiet. So my second one, this is the box traps. This one was the one I was really stoked about. And there was this perfect sandbar, and there was actually a fallen tree going across this sandbar, running parallel with the river. And I tucked my box trap up right against the side, and there was a bunch of, I don't know what kind of grass it was, but it was like 3-4 feet tall, and it was all dead, just laying there. So I grabbed a bunch of that, draped it over my trap, just like my lure supplier said. I almost dropped his name. Just like he told me.
You should just call him your dealer.
Yeah, my dealer. Made it look like a nice little tunnel. Put a can of cat food in the back. Put a trail of shellfish oil going from the exit of the trap about 10-15 feet away from the trap. And then, a little otter lure. And then not far from there, I found 2 little streams coming off the creek, or off French Creek into the game land. So I put 2 conibears, one in each outlet, trying to just block the entry and exits. If they come in or out, they're going to have to go through my trap. And then I just found one more similar little finger with a bunch of otter tracks that I put my final foot trap on. Well, day 1, I go to check my traps. First trap I check, nice beaver in it, big 30-pounder.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. All my other traps were empty. So day 2, I go back and check my first trap, nothing in it. Second trap, it's my box trap, and I see from a distance that all the grass is like ripped off of it. And from my experience raccoon trapping, I know that, when something's in a box trap, they're just digging and pulling it whatever they can. So I'm pumped. I'm like, all right, there's something in there. I get up to it, and there's nothing in there. There's a bunch of dirt dug up into the bottom. Bottom's caked with mud. All my grass is ripped off. My can of bait was like 5 feet from my trap. I'm like, what the hell? And then I see boot tracks. I'm like, oh, rascals. So that's not what I said. It was a little more colorful than that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah. So that was, and there was otter tracks going.
I'm assuming you're inferring that somebody released the animal out of the trap.
Yeah.
Sure, what it seems like.
That's I can't 100% confirm it, but all the arrows are pointing in that direction.
Yeah.
And the fact that there were otter tracks going up to it and boot tracks that didn't match my tread leaves me to think that that's what happened.
And it's illegal to interfere with somebody's hunt, so
Yeah.
that's pretty. I knew it was illegal to intentionally interfere with a lawful hunt. I guess I never really thought to apply it to trapping, but it is the same.
Yeah, it's the same principle. You're out there trying to harvest something, and someone else is messing with you.
Tom's food for the spring.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm like thinking, you know what? Maybe it was another otter trapper. They really wanted one. They saw an opportunity to get it, and they just took mine, and now they're happy, and they'll leave me alone because they left my trap. So I rebaited it, reset it, picked some more grass, draped it over. All was hunky-dory. And went back the following day. All my traps were empty. And then that brings me to today. I go out there with Nick, and same exact thing. All my grass is ripped off. Nothing in the trap.
Was
Half
there
the-
like
half
any?
the tuna lids out of the trap, so you know that somebody is opening this trap.
Yeah.
And like, cause you can't get a tuna can out of a trap, with the door closed.
Yeah.
So like for the tuna can to be outside,
Somebody's
opening the trap with an animal in there and releasing it.
There wasn't like any blood or anything around it. It was
No,
just...
and now that it happened twice, I'm thinking it's somebody walking the property that's anti-trapping.
Bunny
just
hunting.
letting it out.
Yeah, just letting it out.
That's so unfortunate.
Especially because Tom's got 7 days to do it. It's not like a coon season or
where you
beaver
got
season
all
where
the-
he could just be like, screw this place, I'm going to go find somewhere else. Like you
Yeah.
don't have the time.
No.
You have 7 days to trap this animal. And
and
twice now he's gotten robbed.
And we've all used box traps a lot. I have never had I've had traps go off and not had something in them.
They can't get out though.
But if something gets in there and is in there tearing it up and like pulling all that mud in there, they can't get out on their own.
And if they did, the door would be busted off or the back would be busted out. Like this trap is perfectly fine. Like nothing is wrong with it. Somebody 100%. Like I said, there was boot tracks again today.
I've realistically probably caught 75 raccoons with that trap.
Yeah.
Like it,
and nothing gets out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never had something escape a box trap. That's just
well,
nuts.
and like with the tuna can being outside, and then the boot tracks are the real dead giveaway.
Yeah.
You know, it sucks.
Yeah. So what I did was I removed the box trap because obviously that person's back in there every day before I can get there, and letting it out. So I removed the box trap and I moved my 2 conibears. Me and Nick did some scouting and figured out how we were getting, or how the otters were getting
to there
onto that sandbar where I had my trap, where all them oyster shells were and everything.
It's on lock now.
Yeah, I put my conibears on those slides where the otters are coming in and out. So I'd
Pretty
like to
much a
see
done
that
deal.
person release an otter out of that.
They could let
I'd
it
love
out,
to-
but it won't go very far.
No.
I'd love to catch them in the act. It's so infuriating.
Yeah. And you said this like before we started. It's probably someone that doesn't have a hunting license. They're anti-hunting. They're out walking their dog or something. And,
Well, and that's what we.
and it's game
before we-
lands, and we've mentioned this several times on the podcast. The people that talk the loudest about how game lands should be used aren't hunters.
And
And
they're
if
not
you don't have a
contributing.
hunting license, you're not paying.
I've always
for
said
that.
if you want to use game lands, you should have to buy a hunting license.
Yeah.
Or
I
a access pass.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
should be
essentially,
contributing to
whatever,
that property.
Whatever my hunting license costs, that's what you should have to pay to use PA state game lands.
Yeah.
Like state parks, national parks, that's different. But
yeah.
PA game lands, state game land.
They're dedicated to hunting. That's why
Yeah.
the money from hunting
Game
licenses
land.
goes to that.
There's not an Xbox out there to play. It's
Yeah.
a wild game.
Yeah. And we talked about, I think the last time we brought it up was when people were, up in arms about Sunday hunting. Like they want to go walk their dogs on Sunday. Well, you're not paying for this property. Like you are not contributing. You don't get a say.
Yeah.
And now,
There's plenty of public parks you can go walk your
yeah,
dog.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's my thing. Like, I would like to believe, and I feel like we're probably pretty accurate with this, that somebody that does hunt or trap wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I could see, not that I would agree with it, but I could see somebody taking the box trap because they wanted the otter for themselves, like a hunter doing that. Obviously not ethical, don't like it.
Yeah.
But I could see that. But somebody that's just deliberately releasing the animal, to me, is not somebody that's a sportsman that's paying for a license every year.
Yeah, I agree.
It's stupid.
And
It
the fact
sucks.
that there's like no blood around the trap, someone's not taking it. They're not.
Oh yeah, they're definitely releasing it.
Yeah, if they were to kill the animal, there would be evidence of it being, killed there, and then they took it. But
Yeah.
you're not letting it out and then taking it with you. It's dead when you let it out.
Yeah. So it sucks. It honestly makes me a little bit reluctant to utilize game lands.
Yeah.
Just because I've always had access to private land, but otter trapping,
They're
It's
not everywhere.
They're not like
Yeah.
raccoons that
yeah,
you can just.
you're
get
not going to
anywhere.
find them on any piece. You need a big creek
Yeah.
or a branch of a big creek.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a little discouraging.
Yeah, that's a big time bummer, and it's unfortunate that that's something that you have to deal with once in a while, especially on game lands that are, like we said, are dedicated to that sort of thing, and people want to mess with it. Like, just leave it alone.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. I'm speechless.
So mad I could spit.
That's exactly it.
What does Luke always say? So pissed I could poop. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh man. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but I guess we can. I mean, you're gonna keep at it and see what happens, and hopefully next year you can find somewhere that is a little bit more private. You're not on those game lands.
Yeah. So I'm definitely not really enjoying this.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do it for fun. You don't want to go out there and be bummed out every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not making any money off selling fur. That's for sure.
Yeah, fur prices are really high right now.
Yeah, no doubt.
That beaver I got, I did sell for $4.
Nice.
And beaver's up this year. So
That's crazy how far down it is. Because it wasn't terribly long ago. I mean, it's probably longer than I think. 8 years, 10 years now. You used to get a decent bit of money for beavers and even raccoons. You got 20, 30, 40 bucks.
Oh yeah,
for.
Tom and I were easy getting $20 for coons. Like,
yeah, now
long
I
time.
see a raccoon in one of my traps. I'm like,
Damn it.
I gotta skin this thing out for $1.
Weren't you just having a conversation with somebody on
Yeah.
Instagram?
yeah,
About raccoons?
Judd McCullum, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking like, because he believes that, people need to do their part to help the turkey population. Is like raccoons are, they're nest robbers,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, they're not killing turkeys. They're eating eggs.
yeah, and it's just people that, if you're complaining about the turkey population in your area, there are things you can do to assist and help the turkeys, and killing coons is one of them.
Yeah.
And we were both on the same page with it, because there's not any more money in it anymore. So a lot of people have, an internal battle with themselves of like, man, I just feel bad about just killing these coons and not doing anything with them, because like Tom and I always sold them, but now it's like,
You can't sell them.
it costs us money to sell them because,
Yeah.
by the time you trap them, spend the money to get them to a fur trader, like you're almost losing money.
You are losing
Yeah,
money.
you are absolutely losing money.
So it's just
The last raccoon I brought in, the guy's like, "What do you want me to do with that?" I'm like, well, kind of hoping to sell it.
Please.
And he's like, "I'm not buying raccoons." All right.
yeah. So that's the predicament you get in with
Yeah.
with raccoons.
I mean,
And
Tom
since
and I-
fur's worth nothing. You're basically you're wasting it if you kill it, but at the same time, you can't have all these raccoons running around.
So
Yeah.
if you know a good raccoon recipe,
Well,
leave
and,
it in the
like,
comments.
Thank you, Tom. I kind of like I can kind of tell myself, that like it doesn't totally go to waste when you throw it in the weeds, like because other animals are gonna eat it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel as good. Is that,
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't feel right to do
Yeah.
it. Even though, like you said, something else is going to eat it and you're
It's gonna get
contributing
utilized.
something to the ecosystem, but it still feels
Well,
weird.
And even something Judd had brought up too was that he noticed. I mean, he enjoys seeing raccoons and stuff in the woods, which I do too.
Yeah.
I take pictures of raccoons all the time during archery season. But I'm not sure where he's located. I think he's more Midwest. But he's noticed that like they're not even healthy anymore when he sees them. They're either mangy or just all beat up because there's just too many fighting for territory.
Yeah.
Like it's just not even a healthy population anymore. And it sucks. And I think it's going to be really difficult to get people on board with trapping and hunting them again until it's worth something.
Yeah.
And organizations such as PETA, I think, are a huge problem for that because they push people away from using animal-based products, and fur coats are one of them.
100% animal based.
Yeah. So it makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, Tom and I never sold direct to the auction. We always went through a fur trader because we wanted money now versus
Yeah.
waiting. But now, if the fur trader's not even going to buy it,
Yeah.
like what can we do?
Exactly.
You know,
And
if the
even
fur-
if you do send it to one of the big fur auctions, you're not getting much money. You're basically
dad's
paying
had
for
them
your
sent
shipping.
back.
Yeah.
Because like we all are still, we stay up to date on fur prices and everything, and all crossing fingers hoping they would come back up, but it's just not there.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately.
but I wish more people would help it out. And Tom and I loved coon hunting. It was a
Yeah,
blast.
it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it's good, clean family fun.
It is. I think it's a great way to stay in shape.
And it's a great way to stay in shape.
This is true.
But I guess moving on from the Debbie Downer of the first half of this episode, I did want to bring in something more positive and something that everybody should be. You want to comment on how good my
I was
summer
just going to
sausage
say
is?
another positive is in between Nick, Frank, and I, we have a bag full of delicious venison summer sausage made by Nick.
Yep.
It's got little bits of jalapeno in it.
It's pretty
And
good.
I'm gonna snack on some.
Just try to lean away from the mic while you do it.
Yeah, it turned out really good. It was the first time I ever did that, so I was excited to bring some over. I made
It's good stuff.
I was a little risky. I made 30 pounds as my first attempt. So I was like, man, I hope
no
this turns
trial run, just going for it.
Yeah. But moving on from there, something that everybody should be thinking about this time of year, hunting season's over, but
it's starting.
It's starting.
Hunting season is never over.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's time to start. If you want to make tweaks to your setup, now is the time to start thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Pro shops are the least busy right now. So if you want, like, I guess what I'm getting into here specifically is arrows.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it, a few times throughout the past couple months, how all three of us have been considering different arrows, different broadheads, whatnot. But I wanted to focus mainly on the arrows. All three of us now have our new arrows, and it's the perfect time to do that sort of thing because you have all year to shoot and get comfortable with this setup, get your bow shooting good with it. And I think people, if you wait till September, which I feel like a lot of people do that for their strings and every cables, all that stuff.
You're already in crunch time.
Pro shops are loaded to the max fixing crossbows at that time.
Yeah.
And it's just not a good time. I went in to the pro shop I like to use and told him, this is what I'm after. This is what I want to do with my bow. And then I spent a good 3 hours and shot tons of different arrows, tons of different weight broadheads, tons of different weighted inserts, 3-fletch, 4-fletch, helical, all sorts of different things, trying to figure out what arrow does what I want it to do. And that's how I got sold on the arrow I'm using now. But it was amazing, because like if you go online, there's so many pros out there that'll tell you, you need a huge heavy arrow or you need, super light or whatever. Everybody's got a different opinion on it.
Yeah.
But to take a dozen different configurations of arrows, throw them through the same bow, from the same distance and just see what they do was eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll start with what arrows I'm going to be shooting this year, just because I am the one starting this off. But I ended up going with gold tip 4mm. I think they're the Valkyries. But the main reason I went with the 4mm is for penetration. They're quite. I think they're only like a 240 spine. They're a very stiff arrow, but that's because they're so thin.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the big thing, I went into the pro shop. I told him, I'm not a speed guy. I don't really care how fast my bow is. Today's modern bows are way faster than what we were shooting 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't really care about speed. I told him, I said, I want a heavy, or I mean, not a heavy. I want an arrow that is going to penetrate as deep as I possibly can through a whitetail. That's what I want. And he said, okay, let's get your current arrow set up. So I took the current arrow I'm using, which was a Beeman Pro Hunter, I think a 6mm, like pretty standard hunting arrow, with 100 grain broadhead. And I threw that into the target. And then he's like, okay, here, take this arrow, throw that into the target. And I was marking with tape,
penetration.
The penetration, pulling them out, looking, okay, came down to it. So I came up to 4mm arrow and throw that down there. That penetrated way deeper than, it was the same weight as mine, but just 4mm instead of 6mm. Penetrated way deeper. And basically what I observed was the lack of surface area on the broadhead. And because it's a 4mm arrow, your broadhead and field point actually creates
a channel for your arrow to go through.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting, but I'm not sold. I'm like, let's juice up the weight on this arrow because, like I said, I don't care that much about speed. I'm like, let's just bump the weight up on this current arrow I've got and see what it does. So I start bumping it up. I put an additional 100 grains on my 6mm arrow, and it still couldn't penetrate as deep as that 4mm.
Yeah.
So say I'm just going to throw arbitrary numbers just because, they're obviously are not hunting weights at all.
Yeah.
So if I had a 100 grain 4mm arrow and a 100 grain 6mm arrow, and then I took a 200 grain 6mm arrow, still could not penetrate as deep as the 4mm. It was insane that even with an extra 100 grains on the front, FOC,
Yeah.
still could not penetrate as deep as that one.
Yeah, that's like the big craze now is FOC, and
Which
I do
it's
think it's
important.
important.
It is
It's,
very
I
important.
don't want to make it sound like I don't think it's important.
I think people, you don't need a 700 grain arrow to shoot whitetails.
Yeah.
I think FOC is a very important, but
Yeah.
your FOC
Why don't you tell the listeners what FOC is?
front of center. You thought you were going to catch me with something I didn't know.
No, I
Oh, okay.
I know a lot of people might not know what you're talking
Okay.
about.
Yeah, it's front of center, and basically, exactly as it sounds, it's the weight percentage on your arrow front of the center. So basically, a higher percentage
On the front end.
is what they are talking. You want more higher FOC, which it's important to have good FOC, but you can do that on a lighter platform. That's what I'm getting at. Like you can still have high percentages with a lighter arrow.
Yeah.
You don't need a 700 grain arrow. My arrow with the 125 grain broadhead and everything, I think is like 580 grains. So it's a little bit heavier, but I've got a 75 grain insert, 125 grain
75
broadhead.
grain outsert.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have
it's an outsert. Yeah, you're right, because it's 4 millimeters. But that's another thing I kind of like is because it creates a channel over, or I mean, like a channel for the back of the arrow to go through, so it's like wider at the front than it is the back.
Yeah.
And I know Tom's, he's done some reading and talking with some other guys in pro shops, said that the durability with your 4 millimeters aren't as good as something like 6 millimeter. I'm not as worried about shooting the same arrow through multiple deer like that, and that's in some people are like, no, I like to throw the same arrow through. I shot 2 deer with the same arrow this year, like it's fine, but I don't care. Like if my arrow kills 1 deer,
You got your use out of that.
To me, it has done its job.
I'm more worried about getting multiple deer out of a broadhead.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. But I also don't think it's not like these broadhead or these arrows are one-time use.
Yeah.
I think what happens is people bounce them off a rock after a shot,
Yeah.
and I don't think penetrating through an animal is going to break them. And I've shot a bunch of them into foam targets, like a lot, and I have not seen any issues yet. So I think a lot of it is just bone or rock that may cause some issues, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The biggest thing I saw was, over 2 inches deeper of penetration into a solid closed foam target, which is a lot to me.
Yeah, that
Like,
is.
So that's why I went with that setup, and I'm really excited about it. They're also very expensive. About shit, because they're literally double what I was paying for. Because I asked them, like, how much are these? And they're $120. I'm like, all right. I'm like,
That's for 6 of them.
I was like, I'm like, yeah, them pro hunters are like $60 for
Yeah.
6. But like I said, it is what it is. This is what I like to do. I don't have any other hobbies.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I get, which is not nearly as important, but I just figured I'd throw it out there. I also did 4 fletch.
Oh, you did go with
Yep,
4?
I did go 4, and only because I noticed a slightly flatter trajectory out, and I was only shooting 30 yards. But if I use like the same pin at 20 and 30, there was less drop with the 4 fletch arrow than there was 3. Because like I had both exact same arrow. One had 3, one had 4. And I seem to get a flatter trajectory out of the 4.
Yeah.
And I guess what it does is it helps with drag, which I guess you can achieve the same thing with bigger fletchings.
Yeah.
Like you don't necessarily need to put 4. You could go back to the.
Do you have the short ones? Or
Yeah,
do you
they're
have long-
shorties.
Okay.
But they're 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
I guess you can achieve the exact same thing I'm doing by putting.
A 4-inch fletch on it rather than a.
Which is what we all used to run when we were just
Yeah.
getting started. I don't know why.
That
I
just
think
kind
it's-
of became the big thing, was to have the shorter fletching.
I think it's honestly the technology of the bows. I think that they're tuned way better than they were 15 years ago. And I don't know if it has something to do with back then it was really popular, like aluminum arrows were the thing. So I don't know if it had something to do with that. But I know like
feathers always used to be the more popular thing, and feather, you don't see the short feathers. You see the
that's
veins are short, not feathers.
Yeah. But either way, yeah. So that was my setup, and I'm really happy with them. And I'm excited to, really test them out on a deer this year.
Yeah.
Maybe, I keep saying it, I'm feeling pretty confident. Might break out for a bird. I don't know.
You need to quit talking about it and start being
yeah,
about
don't
it.
talk about it, be about it. Yeah. Maybe that's I'll just say it now. Yeah, no shotgun until I get one with a bow this year. Just gonna do it.
All right, we'll see.
Bow only, no blind.
There you go. I like it.
I may use a blinded climber. It's still impressive.
Yeah, I agree. It's
But for the most part, no blind, only because it's too hard to like move it around like and hunt
Yeah.
the way I want to for turkeys. Tom's seen it the way I don't have patience for birds.
I'm
I-
the same way.
I will give it 15, 20 minutes. If it's not happening, I'm moving. I'm like, birds 150 yards out. I'm like, let's get 30 yards closer. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta be at breakfast. Let's go.
Yeah.
But Tommy, I know you just bought some new arrows for your bow. Kind of did similar things to me, and you came up with a different arrow. But break down what you're shooting this year and why.
I'm shooting Easton Axis 5mm. Obviously, 1mm larger than Nick's, but 1mm smaller than the standard 6mm arrow. So you still get that smaller shaft. But what I liked about those is you can still do an insert with a 5mm. You don't have to switch over to the outsert, which the bow tech I was talking to he just basically said that, you know, if you hit something hard, a lot of times these outserts will bend or break. So I went with the 5mm. I put a 75 grain insert in, and I'm shooting 125 grain single bevel iron will SB 125s. And on top of that, I put my
Money bags over here.
Yeah, really.
my fletchings at, so I'll back it up a little bit. So bought a new bow. We talked about it, I think.
Yeah.
And I
T. Matthews.
shot it with a bare shaft. And depending on the way your strings are wound, your arrow naturally will want to turn to the right or turn to the left. So I shot mine, found that my arrow naturally wants to turn to the right or clockwise. So we put my fletchings on the arrow at a 2-degree offset to the right, and with my single bevel broadhead, it's beveled on the right. So everything is helping this arrow spin the natural way that it wants to. It creates more penetration, a flatter flying arrow, and just a all around more accurate arrow. So I'm pretty excited. I did a lot of homework and reading reviews and whatnot on these iron wills, and supposedly they're the best penetrating broadhead on the market. And with that single bevel, and you pair that with your right offset fletchings, when that arrow's going through the animal, it actually spins through the animal like a drill bit. So you look at the iron will broadhead, and it honestly resembles a Native American arrowhead.
Flint point, yeah, it's flat.
Yeah, and you think, man, you're not going to have any blood trail. But how this is designed is it goes through and spins, so it actually creates a hole through the air or through the animal. It doesn't just do a flat slit; it punches a hole. And I guess they have incredible blood trails. So I'm excited to try it out. I don't know if I said this on the podcast or not yet, but it'll be 2 weeks from now. Moving out of the parents' house, and I'll be on my own. So I'm no longer going to be not shooting does. So I will definitely be testing these arrows out on as many does as I can, trying to fill my freezer.
Isn't it funny how as soon as Tom has to fend for himself, he comes out with the earn a buck policy at the headquarters?
Yep.
You used to be so against shooting does. Now you're not even allowed to
Yeah,
shoot
now-
a buck
yeah.
until you
I
shoot a
wasn't
doe.
against shooting does.
You just didn't wanna do
I
it.
openly admitted that we needed to do it. But
Just didn't want to do it.
yeah, I wasn't really feeling like doing it. But now that I'm not going to be getting food for free,
Yeah,
I'm going to be
Load the
stacking as
freezer
much
up.
meat in the freezer as I possibly can.
no doubt.
Yeah, so we're going to test out those iron wills.
All season long.
Yeah.
Frank, what are you shooting?
Maybe you should chew your food before you talk into the mic.
Can't even tell him chewing anything.
Oh, God, yeah, you can. Drives me nuts.
I actually, at the moment, I am not shooting my hunting arrow because, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, I switched to the recurve. So I'm still getting used to that. Working on getting dialed in with that, and I didn't want to buy my expensive hunting arrows that are $125 for 6. So
Do you feel like less of a man because you're not shooting a longbow?
no, I feel like
Okay.
more of a man.
Okay, just curious.
Weird flex, but okay.
Weird flex. So I didn't want to be learning to shoot this recurve and losing arrows with arrows that are, almost $300 a dozen. I'm not looking.
Have you thought about
How many did
maybe
you say
just
per
like
dozen?
hitting the target?
I haven't lost one yet, and I've been shooting.
Does that mean that you have hit the target every time, or you've found them when they ended up in the dirt?
I've hit the target every time. I have yet to miss a target, but I'm not shooting far. I'm shooting 15 yards. I'm more working on my form right now.
Are you shooting straight up and down, or are you kind of like
Canted?
canted?
Yeah,
Ted Nugent would be proud.
he would too. We should have him on the podcast talk about it.
Yeah, I'll call him after we get off the air.
Call old Uncle Ted. But so right now I'm shooting an Easton Carbon Legacy, just because they're a cheaper arrow. They are a feathered arrow.
And carbon will work out of a recurve?
They do still fire. They don't just disintegrate.
That's surprising.
It is tough to believe that you can fire something other than wood out of them. But it is
Surprised
working.
Yeah, and you're not like whittling your own knock into the end of it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Traditional, my ass.
So the basic platform of the arrow, I'm shooting the same length. The feathers are the same length. Everything is the same. It's a little bit lighter than my hunting arrow will be, but like I said, that's not what I'm really
Right
doing
now, you're just
right
trying
now.
to get your form and accuracy. Then you can jump up to the
Exactly.
right arrow and
Yeah.
sight it in per se. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
With
so
your 5-pin sight that you're putting on there.
I'm not putting a 5-pin sight.
I'm just gonna start spreading wild random rumors.
I'm sure you're going to. I can't wait.
Like his recurve actually has cams on it. Never seen it before.
Actually has cams. So the arrow that I'm eventually going to get and will be my hunting arrow is a gold tip arrow. And
They make a nice arrow.
they do. And it's
Ted Nugent shoots gold tip.
does he?
Yeah, they have a
Another
Ted
reason to
Nugent.
get him on.
They have a Ted Nugent.
Oh, you know what? I
edition.
did see. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did see that on there. That they're like, aren't they like zebra striped or purple or something? They
The
got.
purple and zebra stripe.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's got like a purple fletching and zebra stripe wrap. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I would be okay with you shooting those. I prefer a wood grain.
mine are wood grain.
Okay. If you didn't, sweaty Teddy arrows would be okay.
Yeah. So the ones that I'm going to get are a 5mm arrow, and they do have a half outsert. It's not like a full long outsert. You know what a half out is.
Yeah, it goes halfway in.
Yeah, exactly.
out.
Just the tip. And it's a 75 grain half out. So it'll be plenty heavy on the front. My overall weight, it's a decently heavy arrow. I want to say the overall weight's going to be, it'll be short of 600, but not much. It's going to be in like the 590s, right around there. It's a decently heavy arrow with 5-inch feathers on it. So it's the same arrow that I'm shooting now, just heavier.
Gotcha.
So it won't take too much
Lighter,
getting used to.
faster.
Twice the killing power. And yeah, I'm definitely very excited to run that through an animal. And I went with a little bit heavier arrow just because I'm going slower. And I still have the narrower shaft than normal. It's got a decent FOC on it. So I have all the components, but I went a little heavier just because it's a recurve. It's going slower. So I want a little bit more momentum to power through.
Are you going to hunt turkeys with it?
Yep, I am not.
I was watching a video the other day that really got me, like, put me into like the 95% that I was going to do it. Now I'm at 100.
You have to be at 100.
But earlier
now.
this week I was at 95%. I found a video on YouTube. It was 5 minutes and 50 kills. The guy, I don't know if it was one person or a lot of people. I don't know, but there was freaking 50 turkeys getting flipped with arrows, and
That's nice.
it was wild. And I was like, yeah, I got to do that.
Oh.
I just now have to decide if I want to run the arrows that I'm running now and go for a body shot, or do I grab some 125 grain guillotines and slice its head off.
Either one would be great.
Yeah, I feel like I want to go for the guillotine personally.
Mm-hmm.
How big's the kill zone on the body shot?
About a softball.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tough call.
Yeah, it's very small.
I haven't seen your arrows, but you might need to get a longer arrow depending on how much clearance you have, because those guillotines, they're freaking big.
Well, they make expandable ones now, but I don't think I'd want to shoot an expandable one just because, like, just don't like that idea. Like, it needs to be open when it
hits the head.
Yeah.
Or if you miss the head
if you're
and
just barely off the head, I want to be able to still
slice her off.
I think it would be nuts to decapitate one at like 25 yards.
That'd be sick.
So I'm hoping, like, and I'm wondering, like, I do have to do some more research on it. But I'm wondering if you can use those guillotines and still take a body shot. If, like, say he's, full strut and he just turns his back to me, if I can
run
one straight up the old dirt hole and call it good. But I don't know.
Tough to say.
Maybe no, that's not going to work either. I was going to say bring a couple arrows, but I'm not going to be switching with no blind.
No
20
blind,
yards out.
yeah.
Game time decision. But so I guess I am being serious here. If you are somebody that's been successful hunting turkeys with a bow, I don't care if you were using a blind or not. The main thing I'm interested in is what broadheads you were using, where you were shooting them, how well it went. So yeah, if that's you, get a hold of us. Love to chat. Be neat.
No doubt.
Yeah, it'll be fun stuff. Yeah, anything else, boys?
No, that's about it. Just prepping for deer season.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in this long. Appreciate you guys tuning in all these weeks and years at this point. But if you listen this long, I figured just give you just a little tidbit before we sign out here. New studio coming soon. Get outside.